Take care now.
Democratic politicians are knocking heads over how to deal with homelessness. One approach reflects reality, the other, sheer lunacy. On the lunatic side, Mayor Zohran Mamdani is vowing to let homeless encampments spill into every neighborhood in New York. And by the way, right next door in Connecticut, Democratic state lawmakers are pushing a law to handcuff local officials from clearing encampments and banning living rough in local parks. Now, on the reality side, California Governor Gavin Newsom and Boston Mayor Michelle Wu have done 180s in their policies, and they're now opposing homeless encampments, clearing them, and prohibiting outdoor illegal drug use. So to discuss this development, I welcome in two guests who have a lot of knowledge on this issue. Norwalk, Connecticut Republican Town Committee Chair Fred Wilms and Connecticut State Representative Vincent Candelora. Thank you both for joining me.
Morning.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So, Fred, your city has its share of homelessness. What would this Connecticut bill do to the safety and quality of life in your town?
Well, it would make it worse. Norwalk is a city of 90,000 people, and we do have a share of homelessness, but our police force and our public safety officials are doing a very effective job of managing that. But this bill basically would handcuff them. It would subject the city to all sorts of lawsuits and litigation, and it broadly defines what public space is. I mean, it's not just parks or beaches. It could be shopping centers or parking lots or really almost anywhere. And so really, this could really open the floodgates to all sorts of negative consequences.
Representative Candelora, you're looking up close as this bill makes its way to a vote in February. Many predict that the Democratic supermajority will pass it. But how compassionate is it to allow homeless people to freeze to death in a Connecticut park rather than moving them into a shelter or, in some cases, a mental hospital or drug addiction facility?
Yeah, it's a very heartless mentality. It demonstrates the eliteness that has come out of the Democrat Party. They don't want to address the difficult issues of mental health and other problems of how people fall into homelessness. They would rather perpetuate it. So this bill effectively perpetuates a human condition that no legislator should be supporting. And it's frightening to watch the Democrat Party as a whole embrace this and say, we're going to help people remain homeless by allowing them to set up encampments on public property. It is a bizarre mentality that they have.
How well said. Now, let me ask the other side of this question, which is the safety of the public. I see statistics reported now that 13% of those living homeless on the street are registered sex offenders. That's a national statistic. And in Los Angeles, 1% of the population is homeless, but they are responsible for 25% of the homicides in LA. So, Fred, what would this do in your town to the public safety of everyone involved?
You know, it's just a misplaced, I guess the Democrats call it compassion. But what we're talking about here is a population that's suffering from addictions, drug addictions, alcoholism. We're talking about people who have criminal backgrounds, and we're talking about people who are mentally ill. And a number of these folks have combinations of all these factors. And so to basically make the point that, well, all they need is a house, and we should somehow, they're being discriminated against, is just flies against all sorts of common sense. What these people need are treatment, and they need help, and not at the expense of the public spaces and not at the expense of the community at large.
Representative Candelora, you are so widely respected in Connecticut. I should think that you could really convince people that this is a terrible bill. And the fact is that the polls show overwhelmingly Americans 2-to-1 favor eliminating these encampments and providing care sites for people who are homeless rather than allowing them to live in the rough, a lifestyle that is deadly. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we have to move away from the emotional aspect of this and sort of the press release behavior that we see sometimes coming out of the Democrat Party. When you look at this substantively and peel it apart, it's going to perpetuate homelessness, not reduce it. It is going to add to increases in public safety issues. We already have a rise of human trafficking and sex trafficking. Homeless encampments will only encourage that behavior, encourage the spread of the use of drugs. Those are the conversations that we need to bring to the Democrat Party so that they recognize that it might sound like a good measure to help people, but in the long run, it's really going to hurt our entire state, both the homeless and the residents.
Well said. Thank you both for joining me. You know, I look at parents around the state who won't be able to send their teens into town with a little pocket money to walk around by themselves, a rite of passage. It'll be too dangerous. Thank you again.
Thank you.